Get cool stuff for what you were going to do anyway. Drink beer. With Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt, you can just snap a photo of your receipt and upload it to the website to rack up points for exclusive merch. Get points for every purchase, whether you're grabbing a pint on draft, a case for a party, or a tall boy at the stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you buy Labatt. Buy beer, get gear. Sign up now at rewards.labattusa.com.
Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Happy Monday, although a chilly Monday, not the 75-degree weather we saw on Friday, which Alex and I are both very upset about. But nevertheless, we are here on Newhouse Afternoon, Dylan Byer with Alex Pohl. And it's a time of year where, we're looking at the calendar and we're like, oh my God, we're not counting down the days, but you see the number of days we have left here on this campus and you're like,
not looking at it.
Things are kind of winding down, but this week it's Syracuse sports that are getting in motion again, especially this Saturday, April 11th. There's a triple header going on at the Dome. You have women's lacrosse in the morning, men's lacrosse in the afternoon, and then football is playing their spring game at night. So we will touch on all three of those teams, starting with men's lacrosse. That was a big point of conversation that we talked about last week, and we'll get back into our conversation a little bit. But men's lacrosse lost to number 2 UNC, 9-14. UNC now is the number 1 team in the nation. And I have to say, I don't think this was Syracuse's worst loss of the season. When I look at the 3 loss, I'm looking at the Harvard game as the worst loss because that was just a total collapse. In this game, I just think Syracuse played a better lacrosse team than they are.
I think that this is their worst loss in terms of and what came with the loss, they very much so had an opportunity to win this game. They could have won this game, but they were making mistake after mistake after mistake, and it wasn't like they were turning the ball over. They turned it over so many times in that game, and it wasn't even like they were being pressured. There were multiple times that they just had a really bad pass with no pressure on them. It was an unforced turnover. It's not like it was like, forced where they're getting, double teamed and they're trying to have kind of like a Hail Mary pass, get it out there, clear the ball. Completely unforced turnovers. When you're playing a team like UNC and the way they have played all season, you can't have unforced turnovers. And if your goalie isn't playing his best game, and if Joey Spallina isn't touching the ball, and you have all these other things not working in your favor, at least possess the ball and hold on to it, and they didn't do that in that game.
Yeah, a lot of problems with possession of the ball. It was interesting. A storyline that came out of the game was the field that they were playing on and the fact that it was grass, and a lot of people pointed out, well, Syracuse has grassed fields all outside of here. Should that really be something? And I understand every stadium, every field you go to is different, and you have to adjust to that. But just like we weren't blaming the outdoors in February, I'm not looking at the field play of UNC Stadium. But what's interesting is that I agree. I was like, Syracuse, we're turning the ball over so much. You're not clearing. But when you go into the stats of this game, UNC had more turnovers than Syracuse did. So where it's, yes, Syracuse turned the ball over a lot, it's almost the other side of, well, Syracuse actually didn't create opportunity from what UNC was doing poorly, and Syracuse just made it more obvious, I guess, the things that they were doing poorly than UNC was, and UNC was able to capitalize on what Syracuse was doing poorly, and a big part of that was at the X. John Mullen went 7 for 21 on faceoffs, which is not something that we've seen all season. This was personally John Mullen's worst game, and you talk about you need possession to win these games, and that's just not something that was in Syracuse's favor this weekend.
Yeah, John Mullen was not on his A game in that possession. But to go back to the turnovers, it's exactly that they didn't capitalize on when UNC was turning the ball over. But certain times when UNC would turn it over, it's because Syracuse had a great defensive play, or they did a good job of locking them down, or they crashed in the middle, or Billy Dwan, Riley Figueres, any of those big long pulls down at the bottom were able to get the ball out of UNC sticks. Syracuse was just throwing the ball away, and that's the difference maker. It's not like, hey, it did happen at times that they were being pressured, especially UNC did a really strong job of having a very aggressive ride. Even when they'd get even when Syracuse was in their attacking zone, they sometimes have 3 or 4 players on them, which is somewhere that Syracuse struggled with a little bit. But UNC knows that they can do that with how much depth they have in their backbone down there. So they got away with it, even if they didn't cause a turnover. But it was in those moments that Syracuse, I don't know if they were frazzled, the ball was coming out. I don't know what was happening, but there were a lot of times they're just, passing it around, getting some movement, and they just completely overshoot the next pass. It's like, well, no one was on you and no one was on the next person.
Right.
So where does that, it's just certain things like that is what's going to hold them back and is holding them back. They have the talent, they have the ability, they have the manpower, they have the depth. It's, can you clean these things up? And that's why I think that this was a bigger loss than in the past. They made these mistakes in the past. They cleaned their game. Well, not really, but they are supposed to be cleaning their game up. They've done a better job. Yeah, they, lost to Harvard, Prince, whatever, all these games in the past, but that's in the past. That's okay. That was earlier in the season. You were in conference play now, and you're fighting with the top teams, and you're going to make sloppy passes. It's going to help cost you it's going to make a difference and cost you the game. And then with the grass, every turf field I've ever played on has been completely different. You see it as a goalie. There are times when I have my warm-ups, even for club lacrosse, one of the first things we end up practicing is bounce shots and low shots, because it bounces on the turf completely different no matter where you are. So grass, turf, whatever the circumstance, doesn't affect how Syracuse is passing the ball.
Right. No, I agree. And last week we had the conversation of Jimmy McCool and Joey Spallina. And
I think we cursed them.
I don't know if we cursed them so much, but I think this UNC game was very evident in answering that question that we debated last week, because I was on the Joey Spallina side, you were on the Jimmy McCool side. Jimmy McCool gets pulled from this game, is not having his best game. Joey Spallina, 0 goals, 0 assists. So how am I leaning still towards Joey Spallina if they both had off games? Well, Joey Spallina didn't just have 0 goals and 0 assists. Joey Spallina only took 3 shots on goal, and that's because he wasn't getting fed the ball. UNC defensively executed a perfect defensive game against Joey Spallina. If any team out there is looking to how to lock Joey Spallina down, look at what UNC did, because they did it pretty perfectly. And it's in this game where you saw my point reflect on, if Joey Spallina, forget if he's not scoring, but if he can't even assist, there is not guys behind him that consistently step up. Michael Leo has been the shining star when Joey Spallina can't be that goal scorer or can't be that assister to shine, but Peyton Anderson, no goals. Wyatt Hoddle, I think only 1. Luke Roy, only 1. And then you flip to the Jimmy McCool side, he wasn't able to keep them in the game. And then when Ippoliti came in, he made some great saves that McCool wasn't able to make. Now, again, everyone has an off game, but just as you pointed out, you're expecting this type of play to come earlier in the season. And now is when you want to see your goalie play his best game, have his best saves. So I think in terms of our conversation last week, I think this game, and again, you're playing a better team in UNC, but I think this game was very evident to showing when Joey Spallina cannot play Joey Spallina's game, this Syracuse team looks completely different.
I still don't agree with you.
How?
Because Joey Spallina, okay, we were talking about who is, more important. You were just saying Jimmy didn't have his best game, and you saw how the team suffered, because Joey Spallina, unlike Jimmy McCool, was on the field the whole game.
But
he didn't get pulled from the game, and he still didn't have any goals, had no assists.
But how many touches? He only had 3 shots on goal. He he was barely getting fed the ball in the game.
Even when he wasn't able to give a good assist, and that then goes to the fact of the fact that UNC had a very strong defense. They were locking not only Joey down, but even when he did have the ball, he wasn't able to get a good assist to the inside because they were locking everyone down on the inside that no one else was able to get open for him to assist to, and they were barely getting him the ball. So it comes down to just UNC had a very strong defense, and they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew how to take advantage of getting Joey Spallina basically out of the game.
Yeah.
That was not his game. But then on top of it, Jimmy McCool was getting zero help in front of him. That defense was not a normal Syracuse defense at all. And I think that it also came down to the fact of you have Riley Figueres. He was, attempting to lock down Owen Duffy. Again, did a solid job there. But Dom Petramala was killing it in that game. But when Billy Dwan was playing defense on him, they were doing a good job, but UNC basically took over and they knew how to set the right picks, know the right slides to get Billy Dwan off of Petramala. The issue is that if you're watching any Syracuse lacrosse game, the defense is backed by Billy Dwan. Every single time that someone is going into cage or like rushing the goal, going, north-south, the only person who is sliding and helping is Billy Dwan. So you're having him have to be the help. He's the slide. He's the last line of defense. He was diving to try and help save shots, and he had to lock down someone. They had him playing 5 different people's roles, which is impossible, which is why Jimmy was getting so many shots on him. And he had a solid game at the start, though.
The whole team did.
Job.
The whole team. Not
the whole team, because Joey Spallina did not do a good job at the start either.
But Joey Spallina is not the whole team. When you look at what this team did they were only down by 1 goal at the end of the first quarter, and then UNC went on that crazy 6-0 run. So at the start of the game, I liked the energy. I thought it paralleled very much to the energy I saw in the Maryland game. It's just the collapse then of they were not able to stop UNC, and UNC was able to stop Syracuse. At the end of the day, as much as we want to look into the statistics of this game, the players, what they didn't do mostly over what they should have done, I truly just think UNC is a better lacrosse team than Syracuse is. And
they outplayed them in so many different aspects.
Correct. There's a reason why now they are the number 1 team. And there's no doubt in my mind that these teams are going to meet again, either in the ACC tournament or in the championships. And this is what is concerning now, because you look at coming up, they have a 2-game homestand, and they're playing number 9 UVA this Saturday, which is a great opportunity for them to rebound. But just as you and I were both saying, this is the time of season where you want to see your best players playing their best game. And even though UNC is a better all-around lacrosse team, that's not an excuse for the way that Syracuse played on Saturday, because this is the time of year where upsets happen, where you see who really can be those national championship contenders. And in this game, listen, they didn't get blown out, lost 9-14. It could have been better, could have been way worse though, how Syracuse was playing. I'm not getting an encouraging feeling going into these last 3 games of the season. And these last 3 games of the season are against 3 very, very good lacrosse teams. So looking ahead at number 9 UVA this Saturday, UVA has won 4 straight, including Notre Dame and Duke, who are prime lacrosse teams looking also to make their own pushes towards postseason. So what do you think Syracuse should be their number 1 thing that they have to clean up from that UNC game in regards to this UVA game?
It's got to be the defense. Because at the end of the day, the defense is what's going to keep you in that game. And that starts with Jimmy McCool. And I think he was having a really great game at the start. It was just he was getting pummeled with lacrosse after shot after shot after shot. And there's nothing he could do about that. There just is nothing. And once it comes down to you're seeing maybe 15 shots plus straight, and your team isn't taking any, they're not taking smart shots on the other end, and it's coming right back to your defense, who is exhausted and tired, and they're playing full defensive stints and then getting the ball back to them 10 seconds later. It's the attack needs to take care of it and take good shots. When you're trying to get back into the game, I'm not mad at, ripping a solid shot if you think you have it. There's nothing wrong with that. You're trying to get back in the game if you're down. But taking bad shots or trying to force a shot right away when your attack isn't even set yet is just detrimental to your defense and to your goalie, because there was just nothing Jimmy McCool could do at that point in that game. And he got pulled. It is what it is. I think he just needs to continue to play his game. It's nothing to necessarily like rip him apart about this past game. If you saw the way the defense was playing in front of him, there's no wonder he played that way. He could have played significantly worse than he did. What the defense needs to do is figure out everyone's role. Too many people were playing way too many roles. I talked about it with Billy Dwan already. It's not that he's not good enough to do those things, it's physically impossible. You can't have him playing lockdown on someone else and then to crash all the way across the crease. You can't have that. You need to decide. I think that they could have won this game just making that difference, but I think it would have been a completely different game, and it could have been a lot closer and potentially have won if you gave Billy Dwan a role. If you said, hey, you're locking down Petromalo. This is your player. You're staying on him. This is who you're locking down. This is who you're playing defense on. Have someone else, whether it's, you have so many other players that can do the role that are long poles that also play down there, that can pick up the slack, make sure they're the first one over for the help and the one who's going to crash at the end of the day. If you're getting beat, Syracuse was putting a lot of pressure then farther up top, and they were getting beat. There's nothing wrong with getting beat. It happens. But if you have someone there to back you into crash, then you're fine. But that was Billy Dwan, and then they'd skip past it right over. There was even one shot where UNC scored. They had a player wide open standing on the crease because you had Billy Dwan running in 3 different directions. He's such a great defender. Give him a role. Don't give him 5 different roles and make him have to pick up the slack of everyone else.
So we'll see what Syracuse can do to clean up their defensive efforts this upcoming Saturday at the Dome. Speaking of, like we said, 3-game homestand for these Syracuse sports. When we come back, we'll talk about the exciting football season you're going to see showcase on Saturday. We'll be right back.
Appreciate it. Am I louder now? Oh, I'm so quiet.
Keep going.
Is it better now? Hello. Syracuse lacrosse, Syracuse women's lacrosse. Dominated. Am I better?
Much of a difference, yeah.
Wait, I'm number 1. I'm louder in my own ear, but I don't think I'm actually louder. Bear with us, everyone.
Everything's like it usually is. Maybe just bring it closer to your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that helps having it closer, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we didn't mention Syracuse women's lacrosse, but they just keep winning.
Yeah.
And that, I mean,
they did a kind of dual trip down to North Carolina with Duke and UNC, the men's and women's team.
Yeah.
Traveled together down there. So men's obviously fell short, but when the women's team were able to
beat
pull
Duke.
Off a win.
They have Notre Dame on Saturday, and then I think like we've talked about, the most telling game that we will see from them is their BC game, because that's always their kryptonite. So if
it is.
If they can overcome BC, then
women's lacrosse hasn't beat BC at BC. Oh my gosh, what was it, since 2017?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. It was when Kayla Traynor, the previous Syracuse women's lacrosse head coach, when she was still a player here, was the last time
that's
that they beat
crazy.
BC at BC. Have not done so since. So it's going to be an interesting one, but BC hasn't had their best season recently.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, okay, they're ranked number 10, but still, they haven't had their strongest season yet at all.
Well, it's football time.
Let me see where they're at now. Yeah, I mean, they won their last couple games, but they lost 21-12 against UNC.
21-12. Yikes.
And we lost 13-9, but that was our second game of the season on the women's side. So that was all the way, first week of February, where BC played them 2 weeks ago. At the end of March, it was like March 20-something. March 21st. So yeah, about 2 weeks ago. They played and lost 21-12. And then they also lost to Duke 17-6. So
yeah, we'll see.
The best in ACC play so far this season. They lost to Notre Dame. It was a close game. So that's who, Syracuse is playing up next. So hopefully we'll also be able to pull a win out of that one. Lost to Northwestern. That was again, though, the first week of February. So
it just feels like
things have changed.
This semester, this season has gone by so quickly.
So fast.
I feel like just yesterday we were saying the rankings don't matter, and now it's like
2 games left.
They do matter,
done.
actually.
Season's almost over.
It's
so
crazy.
Scary. Oh.
The semester is definitely going by faster
Too fast.
than first semester.
Oh yeah, big time.
Crazy. I think they can lengthen the lacrosse schedule, though. I think they can add more games.
Add more games and start it later.
Yeah. I don't think there's...
okay, at the same time, the school year is over.
Yes.
But
I don't think there's any reason why a team... we saw Syracuse lacrosse play a Friday and Sunday. I think that's maybe too close together, but if you have a Tuesday night and a Saturday day, something like that,
something
like that.
Sportstalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Well, even though I saw some snow flurries coming out of my window this morning when I was tanning on Friday, and it feels like we could still be singing Christmas carols up here in Syracuse, New York, it is that time where it's technically spring, and that means we get our first look at this Syracuse football team who will play their spring game this weekend. And there are a lot of storylines here, just in the realm of what college sports, including college football, is, but also pertaining to Syracuse football. Starting with that, I know this was news last weekend, but Calvin Russell, the 5-star recruit, lower leg injury, has surgery, is going to be out for quite a while, which is a big blow to the Syracuse offense. And I don't think enough people are emphasizing how big of a blow it is because, Syracuse is a football program that is looking to get better every year, just like everyone else, and is looking to make more national exposure. And Calvin Russell is definitely a player that can put Syracuse on the map and definitely help Steve Angeli. But you talk about in the wide receiver department, the departures from the Syracuse offense. Daryl Gill's gone. Jonte Cook transferred to Ole Miss. Emmanuel Ross is gone. So Calvin Russell was supposed to be the guy coming into this season. Now, of course, Umari Hatcher is back after entering the transfer portal and coming back. But I really do think that this is going to be a significant blow to Syracuse. And you look at Syracuse's schedule, it is quite literally a gauntlet of a schedule. And where usually we have 2 or 3 games for Syracuse to kind of settle in against non-conference opponents. Yes, they play New Hampshire, but then they go right to Cal and then to Pitt. So there's not a lot of breathing room and time for this team to get adjusted. And I think that this year is going to be Fran Brown's hardest year to coach in terms of just what this roster setup looks like, because he's not coming in with a Kyle McCord and an Aronde Gadsden and a LaQuint Allen.
Yeah.
he's starting pretty much completely new. We know kind of what Steve Angeli could do because we saw it through 4 career starts, but we have no idea what he's going to look like post-injury. So I think this spring game, of course, it's not going to be as high, high volume playing as a normal game, but I think it will give us a look at, okay, what are they doing in spring practice? Who is stepping up in those wide receiver positions, and how does Angeli look post-injury?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what's up with the Syracuse team and those Achilles injuries, but it is not looking good for them. But that's kind of the fun part about having these spring games is pretty much everyone plays.
Yep.
Everyone's going to touch the field. You're going to get to see what that depth now looks like. Like you mentioned, they lost a lot of players in that wide receiver room. Now with the injury, they're sort of lacking now without Calvin Russell, but they have other talent, and there also might be some talent that, we weren't expecting, that you don't know about. Talent that has been accumulating behind the scenes over time. So this is a cool opportunity for people to get to see what this team might look like, and not only also to see on the quarterback side of, what can Steve Angeli do now that he's back from injury, but also they picked up other quarterbacks since that season, which is going to give them a brand new look, because last season you basically just had Steve Angeli. The fact that you had to put in a freshman lacrosse walk-on against UNC and Notre Dame should not be happening.
No.
At all. So they brought in a lot of other talent, so that's one position I'm excited to see who else is stepping up.
Yeah, and going back to the wide receiver position, you have Elijah Moore transferring from FSU, Cole Weaver from Miami, Ohio. Syracuse got a lot of transfers. It's just, Syracuse football is just not a program where we get the former 4-star, former 5-star, the big names that are coming in here. So I'm excited to see what this team has been working on. I think the other side of the ball for Syracuse, which last year just completely killed them, was the defensive side. And Syracuse is always an undersized team, especially against the teams that they're matching up with. So I'm very, very encouraged to see what the defense looks like now, especially under a new defensive coordinator. I think that the question is, can Syracuse football be competitive next season? I think you can't answer that question until maybe not even after this weekend, but throughout their first few games. But we talked about the first half of the schedule. Their second half of the schedule, I've truly never seen a schedule like this, especially when you talk about what these teams did last year. UConn is now where it used to be, it's UConn, laughable, we'll beat them by 56 points. That's a game now.
Yeah.
UVA, it's a game. Louisville, SMU, Clemson, NC State. This is a very, very tough matchup going forward.
Yeah, they do not have a light schedule at all whatsoever. It's basically blow after blow. It's just so many back-to-back tough opponents. There's no one that is sort of those easy walk-away games of, maybe the walk-ons are going to touch the field. Right. Those seniors who've never played before. They have especially with a football team that big, they have a lot of players that walk on, or that even were in other organizations on campus and decided, hey, for my senior year, my junior year, why not see what they miss playing a sport? And those players get to touch the field. That is not going to happen this season. You have so many difficult opponents. It doesn't stop. When you go for all of October, November, like you mentioned, it goes UNC, SMU, Clemson, NC State, BC, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
No
Crazy.
Easy games, no throwaways in that list there at all.
Crazy. So we will see this Saturday what the new players and the new names look like on this football roster. But flipping over to the basketball side, when we come back, we'll talk about who's expected to stay on this basketball team, but also who's expected to leave as the portal opens up tomorrow. We'll be back with more right after this. Appreciate it. I'm excited to see how the quarterbacks do, because you also have Danny Lauder in here now, who's from Georgetown. And he played during the pro day that they had. Mm-hmm. He was the one that was passing the whole time, and that's kind of sort of blew up all over my
explore page on Instagram, like For You page, was like, wait, Syracuse has this like quarterback, like who is he? And he was passing the whole time and he looked pretty solid. So
the reason why Syracuse football was so successful under Kyle McCord, not only because it was Kyle McCord and the talent that he possessed, but also because we had one starting quarterback for the entire season.
Yeah.
We weren't switching between a Garrett Schrader and a Dan Villari. We didn't have to switch to a freshman lacrosse player because the quarterback got injured. I think a key for this Syracuse football team is health. If your players can stay healthy, especially the Syracuse players who we've seen play for this team in the past, it is an encouraging football team. And this year, I almost have to say that Syracuse football has to be good, has to make a bowl game for Fran Brown's name to stay relevant as a coach here, for just Syracuse football to stay somewhat relevant. So it's a big season.
Like you mentioned, it's a struggle with size.
Yeah, they're always undersized.
So small. I remember my first day I moved into campus, and my mom and I were setting up my dorm room, so my dad decided to go explore and somehow found himself exploring the football facility, and they were working out, and he saw a bunch of guys, and then he had seen some later on, and he was like, oh, like that guy must be playing like this position, that one. And he's like, and I was like, wait. So like we were like kind of like looking, or he was checking. They're like, oh, like those are the O linemen. And he goes, those are the what? Like he literally came up to me freshman year. He came back to the dorm and he was like, you are not gonna have a good football season. I was like, what? Like we were talking about it. We're like, oh my gosh, yay, football games, that's what games. He goes, have you seen the size of those guys? I was like, oh gosh. I was like,
yes, and it has always been a problem because
they have to outwork the other teams, and the hustle just isn't always consistent.
No,
there.
and when
they have good games, but not consistent.
When you're
games.
getting beat, it's your quarterback health and safety. If you cannot protect your quarterback, there's more injury risk, obviously. But then it's also, if you cannot hold the D line off, your quarterback has 2 to 3 seconds to throw the ball, and you want a clean pocket for him to throw the ball. That's why Kyle McCord was so successful, not only because he could run it with his legs, but he had time to throw the ball and to execute those long field down the play drives, whereas
he didn't even overall even have all that much time, but he had more than they do have now.
Yeah.
And he had more protection.
Yeah, so
that's why the Jets are terrible year after year after year after.
Yes, they are.
Because they can't protect the quarterback.
But don't worry, New York Jets. Geno Smith, according to your head coach, is the savior of this football team. He will bring you to the promised land. Not what? Like, I'm sorry. I loved Aaron Glenn when he was on the Lions. But as the head coach of the Jets, I don't think he's built for it. And then you go even further to say Geno Smith is the future of this team.
He is. There's no world where he's a future.
Like, listen, I'm not discrediting Geno Smith. Listen, when Geno Smith was on the Seahawks, I had him on my fantasy team. Great quarterback. I think Geno Smith's window has closed, and the Jets' window, it's locked, sealed, duct taped, chained.
Be back in about 10 seconds.
What other word can I use? Plastered, boarded. Yeah.
Sealed.
NewsSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
All right, Dylan Byron, Alex Pohl back with you on this Monday. Now, tonight we have the championship of college basketball. You have Michigan playing UConn. I did not have that in any of my brackets. Did you have Michigan playing UConn?
I did not, but I won in the women's bracket.
Oh, congratulations.
I was the only person who had, in our entire league, who had UCLA winning.
You did?
I did.
Wow. That is surprising.
that I had them winning.
Because you would have thought to pick South Carolina or UConn, but no.
I chose UCLA.
Okay. And look at that, you won.
Fun. And I won. I did great. I was so proud of myself.
Did you win anything, or just like bragging rights?
Bragging rights. It's so unfortunate. Not that I want to like get people's money, but I won that. I won fantasy football in 2 different leagues this year. I got nothing. I was like, I gotta start putting, because even for the bracket, this time we said, oh, let's put money into it. Let's do it. And then some of us, myself included, were very late to the party, and we were just like, and no one ended up ever collecting the money. And I was like, wait, so like, can I get it out that I won? I don't know. It's fine.
I lost.
You'll just keep hearing me brag
so I don't
about
win
it.
Anything.
So.
But if you're a Syracuse basketball fan, yeah, you might be into tonight's game, but you're even more interested in what's happening tomorrow, and that's when the portal opens. Obviously, this morning, GMAC announced his assistant coaches. 2 are coming from Sienna, 1 who was a player here at Syracuse. So a great staff that GMAC has put together. But now it's, okay, A, who leaves this team, and B, who comes into this team. There was a report yesterday that Nate George plans to enter the transfer portal, which is unfortunate, but I think it was bound to happen. So that leaves these big names. That leaves Donnie Freeman, Nate Kings, who, by the way, wants to return, but has to get that approved, has to get another year approved, which I don't think is going to happen. So let's just say his name is off. Let's say he doesn't get approved. That leaves Donnie, Sadiq, Kyan, Akir, and Luke Fennell. My big names that I'm looking at are Sadiq and Donnie Freeman. We've entertained the conversation of Kyan Anthony leaving, but I think everything that you've seen on social media from Carmelo and from Kyan indicates that he's staying at Syracuse. So,
especially because of the relationship of GMAC and Carmelo Anthony.
I don't see Kyan going anywhere this season. Now, next season, in the future, if Syracuse doesn't make it to the promised land of the tournament, then I see Kyan leaving. But let's talk about Donnie Freeman, Sadiq White, because those are the 2 names that are the most likely to leave this team. The bigger blow, in my opinion, would be Sadiq White. Donnie Freeman injured his first year. This past year, he was supposed to, and again, you never know how someone is going to come back from injury, but he's just underperformed. Before his injury freshman year and last year, he was a big part of the reason why Syracuse as a whole underperformed. Of course, he's the big man. I would love for him to come back, but if I'm saying Donnie Freeman versus Sadiq White, I think Sadiq White is more of a pressure point for this Syracuse team in terms of you have to get him back on the roster. You don't know?
I don't know.
I just think there's more there that's promising with Sadiq White in terms of development and what he can add to this team rather than what Donnie can.
I think that, like you mentioned, he was coming back from injury. I don't think he performed necessarily how everyone might have wanted him to, per se. But, I mean, I think he outperformed Sadiq White. Even in points total in the season, he had 380. Sadiq White had 189. So, it also comes down to what kind of, impact they have on the court. I think that there is a lot of growth for Sadiq White. I could understand that he has more sort of growth to do than Donnie Freeman, that they can do more with him now that they're completely changing up the whole coaching staff, and that there's more room for development, where I think they both have room to grow, but I think that there's more ways to develop Sadiq White rather than Donnie Freeman. But I don't necessarily want to say that, per se, that it's more important to keep Sadiq White than Donnie.
I think you can say that. I think that Sadiq White is more critical of an asset to Kyan Anthony's game and just to the overall performance on the offensive side of how Syracuse plays. Also, this morning, a Slovenian wing, Mark Morano. I'm not even gonna try pronouncing his last name, but he committed. See, don't even try it. I'm gonna save you. And he's 6'7". So that's your big man. And he's a 3-point shooter. So it would hurt, but as much as Sadiq leaving this team, I don't think so. And so now you think of, okay, those are the guys that can potentially leave. When you think of who can come into this team, right now the only players that are really mentioned are the Siena players. Other than that, there's just so many. You see every year in every college sport, so many players enter the transfer portal. So there's not one name above the rest. Yeah. So it will definitely be interesting tomorrow. Now flipping over to the women's side, because I think that is more of a storyline, and I understand men's basketball because of GMAC. They're getting a lot of attention, understandably and rightfully so, but I think the conversation around this women's basketball team is even bigger because of what they did with their season, and you'd love to see everyone come back. Obviously, that's not realistic to think. Uche announced that she is coming back, which is just amazing news, not only in the scope of college athletics, and you would think that maybe she would try to go somewhere else, but just because of what she did for this team. However, Sophie Burrows is not coming back, and that is a big blow to this Syracuse team.
I think it was completely expected, though. I was not surprised at all. But one thing that I just hate that college athletics has turned into is that, obviously a player would make an announcement if they're leaving. The fact that now we have to wait for players to make announcements that they're going to stay, it's just so kind of expected that everyone's up in the air and that players are leaving and things are moving around, that now there's a need of oh wait, we have to wait for them to say they're going to stay here. I hate that. I just don't like that at all.
So because we were going to talk about this before, I think this is a great segue into this conversation. Politics aside, President Trump announced this, he's first calling it this Saving College Sports Committee Act, which again, politics aside, the fact that he's proclaiming that he's going to be the one to save college sports. Okay, great. If the NCAA and every coach and every media personality and anyone with influence and power has not figured it out in the past 5 years, you and a bunch of politicians and media personalities and Tim Tebow are not going to be the ones to save college sports and figure this thing out. It's something that the NCAA has to govern themselves. But that being said, President Trump did sign an executive order. And everything that he signed into order now, whether the NCAA actually takes that and enforces that, is something that we will have to see and will go through the Supreme Court. But what it says is athletes get 5 years to play 5 seasons, and you can only transfer one time for free before having to sit a year after redshirting a second time, which is I have yet to hear someone push back against that.
I've heard so many coaches push for that.
Correct.
Multiple coaches and lots of press conferences, no matter the sport, honestly. I've heard it on basketball. I've heard it on the side of football. Multiple coaches have said that you shouldn't be able to just jump around, dilly-dally, whatever. I didn't like my coach. He said, I don't think I got as much as I deserve this season. Let me just go to another coach. Okay, no, didn't like that team. I actually did well here. Oh, wait, but this one's going to offer me more money. Let me jump to that team, jump to this team, jump around. So it ruins it.
It does. It ruins college athletics. But then, there's also this conversation about college sports, and especially when you look at college football and college basketball, because those are the two revenue-driving sports, where I agree that these are still college athletes who are student athletes first, right? They're not just football players. They're not just basketball players. These are still students who are academically enrolled in colleges and are going to schools for education. There's also no denying with what NIL has done that these are also now professional athletes who I think need to collective bargain for themselves and who need to be recognized as employees, because you not only talk about the insurance benefits they can get from that, the salary, what they can do to advocate for themselves. You look at just what it will do for college sports. It will just, because right now college sports, it's all over the place, right? We talk about, we got into this conversation because you mentioned it's crazy that players have to even announce that they're staying. Yeah. That should be what is expected. So I think you still have to be governed by the NCAA or by something, because these are still 18, 19, 20-year-olds who don't know how to always govern for themselves. And that is what they're doing right now, and that's why you're seeing all of this movement. So I think there does need to be rules and laws in place. But on the other side, you have to kind of have this split balance of, okay, but these are also athletes that are making millions and millions of dollars for their universities and should be compensated
100%
for that.
I think that's the, it was sort of like, when the transfer portal was happening, it was like an NIL and everything. It's like they're going to make money for themselves. They're going to get the, money that they deserve and this and that. But then it's, they kind of went into it without any, limitations.
Right.
It was kind of like a free-for-all. It's, no one's going to take advantage of this. No one's going to do that. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And it kind of exploded in that sense. But what you mentioned, though, is that, yes, it's good for players to be able to, advocate for themselves if it truly makes if it's the right decision for them to switch programs, whether they're not being compensated fairly or whatever the situation might be. 100%. It's the athletes that jump around every single season to find something better or to use it for money. And yes, you get the money you deserve, but even that's why Fran Brown has let players go when they're asking for too much.
Yep.
They're students at the end of the day. They still need their education, and there's a lot of things they need to learn because of how young they are. That's where a lot of coaches have talked about where they're lacking in that development. We talked about the Syracuse men's basketball team of who can be developed more. Is it Sadiq White? Because they're kids at the end of the day, but they're being treated like professionals. And it's hard when some of them are, even 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And there's other players that are like 23, 24 who are, reclassing a bunch of times, came from other countries, who are significantly older, and finding how to balance those two types of athletes at the same time and still develop these young high school players who are coming into college with these dreams of, potentially even going farther than that.
Yeah, so we'll see what GMAC does with this transfer portal opening tomorrow. Picture this, though. Your team, any team, is in the playoff hunt with 4 games left in your season, and your head coach gets fired. Could you imagine that? Well, it's a reality for one professional team out there. We'll talk about it right when we come back.
What do we have, like 3 minutes when we come back?
Yeah, something like that. Yes. It's a reality. Well, in the spirit of hockey and the NHL, because we're upstate, the Buffalo Sabres clinched the playoffs for the first time since 2011. Crazy. But Alex, this now means there is another team out there that has the longest playoff drought in all of professional sports. Take a guess at who that team is. Jets, Jets. Congratulations. The Jets
I don't know why I agreed to do on this one.
Now have the longest playoff drought. They haven't made the playoffs since January 2011.
Honestly, I thought it was longer than that. I thought we already had the longest, so I'm kind of not too
What
bad.
major events happened in 2011? The royal wedding. Okay. Steve Jobs died. Wow. A lot.
A lot of bad things that happened
A
that
lot
year.
of bad things happened, including the Jets losing to the Steelers in the playoffs. And that's the last time we've seen that. Yeah, that too.
My goodness. Wow, that's not a great year for.
Not a great year for anyone.
End of the U.S. Space Shuttle program.
The Jets. Well, in other New York football news, Sexy Dexy has requested a trade, which is unfortunate for the Giants. It's also interesting because everyone's off-season workouts start today, and you would just think, why today? You could have announced a while ago that you didn't want to come back. Why today when things just start almost ramping up? You got the draft coming up. Do you believe in Fernando Mendoza as the number 1 pick? Because a lot of people are saying a lot of different things.
Wait, do I think he's going to be, or
No.
do I believe in him?
Do you believe that he is a viable number 1 pick selection?
Yeah.
Really?
I just feel like every single time that there's a quarterback, everyone's like, oh, he's amazing, he's the best, won national championship, this, that, and the other thing, and then they get picked first, or even if they're second or third or whatever, but the first quarterback never plays well at the start of their career, ever.
No, but also
It never goes well.
To be fair,
I
there's
don't have too much faith.
this is just not a good quarterback class. You look at this quarterback class, it's Fernando Mendoza. Okay, you can say number 1 pick. You have Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck. Carson Beck, great older quarterback though. Garrett Nussmeier played great 2-3 seasons ago. Last season couldn't take LSU anywhere. No. And then Ty Simpson out of Alabama, he didn't show that Alabama-esque quarterback qualities that you would think would propel him to be the number 1 pick. So Fernando Mendoza, not taking away from what he did, but I think he's just the number 1 pick because of the essence of what this quarterback class just is. There's no one better than him who is in this class, but I don't think he's the best quarterback. I think this year is just an anomaly of why he's the number 1 pick. Also, who has the number 1 pick? The Raiders, who need a quarterback.
20 seconds. That's got about 3 minutes or so. Make it back a little over 3.
Got it.
Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
All right, with you for the last few minutes or so here. So it's almost the start of the NHL playoffs, which I would argue is the best postseason out of the 4 sports. I don't think there's anything like postseason NHL hockey. So these next 2 weeks are really the times where we see, okay, who's getting in that wild card? It's all these wild card races. And the New York Islanders did something yesterday that you've never, ever seen done in professional sports. They fired their head coach with 4 games left and signed Peter DeBoer to come in as the head coach. And he also just got announced about an hour ago that he signed for the next 3 seasons. Yeah. As an Islander fan, I understand. The Islanders have lost 4 straight games, and they are in the biggest wild card race of their lives right now. Every point seemingly matters. So you cannot lose 4 straight games. There's no doubt about that. But firing a coach with 4 games left looking to make a playoff push, I don't think you could do that either. Because Peter DeBoer comes in, a great head coach, has a lot of wins under his belt, has taken teams to the playoffs and the finals, great head coach. But when you talk about what a coach actually does for a team, each coach has a different vision for the offense, for the defense, for the special teams. I don't see how Peter DeBoer can come in to this New York Islanders team and create magic all of a sudden take them to the playoffs.
There's not enough time for them to buy in, for him to implement the way that he would want to be a coach.
Correct.
Like you mentioned, every coach has a different style, a different mindset of what they want to do, what they want to accomplish, the way that they run their team. You can't just come in and change it all or attempt to do so this fast.
Correct. And let's just say, right, the Islanders win 4 straight. The teams they need to lose do lose. Playoff hockey is a totally different game than regular season hockey. And how you can further that as a coach and get your team to play the way you want to when you just signed a contract a week ago and you barely know the guys on your team. I don't understand this move. I understand the timing of the move, but if this happened a month ago where the Islanders lost 4 straight, it would have never happened. Patrick Waugh is a great head coach, had a winning record under this hockey team. This move makes 0 sense to me. You've never seen it done, and for good reason. This also isn't an Islanders team who this is their window and this is it. Bo Horvat signed an extension. Barzal signed an extension. Matthew Schaefer just came into the league and loves everything about Long Island and the Islanders. So I think this team is set up for a great future. And Patrick Waugh was the head coach, in my opinion, to take them to that future. This move coming now, I would have rather the Islanders completely miss the playoffs and see what Patrick Waugh could have done with these next 4 games. I don't understand this move, but hey, at least I'm not the New York Rangers at the end of the day. That's all the time we have on today's episode of Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Dylan Byer with Alex Pohl. We will see you next week.
This is Orange Nation.